Mina. What happened? Where's my watch? Where's my wallet? I've been rolled. Last night. What happened? I remember going into BB's bordello. I remember a barrel of sake and dancing on the tables. I remember going upstairs with Suki. Oh, I remember. Don't remember much after that. Ugh. They robbed my watch, took my wallet. I got a massive headache. I think my wrist is broken. But what a night! Welcome to me show. Mario here, still on shore leave. I'm landbound in downtown Shinsekai. Winters are a bad time for us sailors. We are often landbound, what with the storms, hurricanes and typhoons. When it's cold and stormy outside, it's good to remember the summer. Summers past and summers to come. Last summer, a group of musicians from Berlin hit the streets and parks of Amsterdam. There's so many people in this motley crew that wherever they are is a party, and we were lucky enough to join them. Here's Orchestre Miniature in the Park, aka Ump.
some of you don't. For some of you got it to go to the track. No, throw your side, your hands up in the air. Yeah, yeah. Now is the time to let it go. Say yeah, yeah, yeah. Welcome Juliet. Welcome Romeo. Welcome all our friends. And you who we don't know. Welcome to the show. No sender alone. Some of you got the fever, and some of you got the cold. Oh, lay your arms around someone that feels good. Throw your side, your hands up in the air. Yeah, yeah. Now is the time to let it go. Say yeah, yeah, yeah. Welcome Juliet. Oh, welcome Romeo. Welcome all our friends. And you who we don't know. Welcome to the show. Throw your side, your hands up in the air. Yeah, yeah. Now is the time to let it go. Say yeah, 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 yeah.
Jens, it's too hot to make it so long. We're gonna faint.
Chet Baker was a man of love. He loved music, he loved Amsterdam, and he loved heroin. But what he loved most was these three things combined. Unfortunately for Chet, it wasn't a happy ending. Arr, 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 arr.
Chet Baker was a frequent visitor to Amsterdam. Since the late 1940s, Chet had been blowing his trumpet with many of the great jazz masters of the time, including Charlie Parker. But Charlie was a junkie and a bad example for the young Chet. For the rest of Chet's life, drugs were to become a big problem.
There was a knock on the door, and it was the police. And the next day, when the newspaper came out, it said that I had been found unconscious in the toilet of a gas station, that the police had to break in the door, that the room was covered in blood. I mean, completely ridiculous story. And 3 months taken off my time, so I only did 15 months.
Chet really liked Amsterdam.
I'll probably be coming to Amsterdam fairly regularly. I have the feeling here that there's much more freedom. People are not so uptight about petty things.
In the early hours of May 13, 1988, alone in a cheap Amsterdam hotel, Chet, off his face on heroin, sat on the sill of a second-story room to get some air. He fell out the window. The police deemed it an accidental death. Heroin was in his blood, and there was heroin and cocaine found in his room. The door was locked from the inside.
I always sailors look forward to Christmas. Wine, women, song, women. And postcards from me friends all over the world. Here's one from Kimono and Chibby Chan. Happy XXXmas to our sailor friend. May your voyages never end. Love and greetings to Mario. From Kimono, Chibby, and Momo. Aw, that's nice, guys. See you when you come to the city. I got this one from Mad Fuck. What a mad fuck. And here's another one. This one's from the Fokken sisters. I really treasure this one. I always drop into these ladies when I'm in Amsterdam. They sure know how to look after an old sailor like me. Let's go now to the red light district of Amsterdam, where these ladies are showing us round their old haunt. I know it well. Arr, 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 arr.
Hij kan nog altijd met kerst zetten we kerst. Met kerst gewoon vaak nog leven in zijn huis. Als je werkt, dan niet altijd. Hier was Oud-Brottel. Ja. Hier was ons bordeeltje. Hier zijn we begonnen. Long time ago.
Nou, lekker rustig.
En het was very rustig. And before there were 7 brothels, little brothels. A son stand, a woman stand on the door. And everything was all right. We did have a good time. Hè?
Ja. Ja,
toch? Nice, hè?
Ja, kijk, de wijnhuis.
It's very special. And upstairs, sometimes there live English boys, and they telling, we are the landladies.
We are the landladies, ja.
Nou, wat leuk dat jullie leren kennen. Ben ik echt
Even, heb je een pen?
Oh, pen.
Oude
Ja.
hoeren, met die oude hoeren op... oude hoeren, maar dit is
Oude hoeren
allemaal
op
verhalen
reis.
hier uit de steeg, hè? Heb je een
Ja.
pen?
Hier hebben wij een bordeel gehad.
Rooiperstraat.
bordeel gaat er.
Er staan ook mooie Spaanse mannen in, hoor. Ja, Andres. Het is vandaag
12.
12?
Ja.
11? Oh, 12?
12 of 13?
13.
13.
En wat is je naam?
Carmen. Carmen.
Carmen.
Oh, leuk. Ja.
Oh, zet hem hou maar even vast. Before it was a brothel. You can take a picture. Long time ago. But,
Club 21 bedoel je?
yeah, before it was a brothel. This was a brothel from a girlfriend, a woman from us.
Ja.
Van Will. But now it's also a brothel, but they give the name massage.
Ja.
We give also Dutch massage.
Ja. Ja.
We do the Dutch massage.
Ja.
With milk. Karnemelk.
Ja.
Karnemelkse meisjes.
Ja.
Is veel reclame. Heb je ook maar
Ja.
karnemelkse zeep, hè?
Ja.
Soap. Karnemelkse soap.
Ja.
Een heel grote soap.
There are so many interesting people in Amsterdam. Some are born here, and some come here from other places. Hank Botwinik is an American who lives in Amsterdam, and he's a mime with a lot to say. Arr!
So, rolling. Hi, Future Vision viewer. We're here at the Cardinal and I'm going to be talking to Hank Botwinik. Hank is, he has a theatre background. He's appeared in many independent films. He's also a broadcaster. and he also appeared in the Free Fringe Festival this year, doing an old school mime performance. It's a much maligned art form, Hank.
Yeah, most people have not really seen a real stage mime performance. Most people are familiar with mimes on the street who, for the most part, are untrained and pretty obnoxious. So, yeah.
I heard you trained with Marcel Marceau.
Yes.
Is that true?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. What was he like?
And he was, first and foremost, a great humanitarian, really very nice person, and a brilliant teacher.
Yeah.
And created an art form that probably died with him.
You think you've travelled around quite a lot, by the sound of it, in your life, and you've
Well, I've toured
been in
throughout the
Amsterdam.
United States. I've performed in Mexico and Canada, and now in Europe.
So, what do you make of the situation in America at the moment with the new president? What's your take on that?
I don't even know what to say. America has elected Hitler, and he's got everything but the mustache, and I expect that'll come before long. And, I am an optimist. I think he's going to implode. I don't even know if he'll get to take office, but if he does, it's I left America when George Bush became president, because that was the last straw for me. But George Bush, as criminal as he might have been, I think he should be in jail. He was somewhat of a human being who had good intentions, however misguided they might have been. I don't think he was, well, they're all crazy. I mean, as far as politicians go, but Donald Trump is, he's a criminal, a con man.
Do you think he's the president that America deserves?
Again, I think the American version of capitalism is as, let's call it, as archaic, as antiquated as the Soviet Union was under communism, and Soviet Union collapsed, and I think America is going to collapse or implode in the same way the Soviet Union did, hopefully. But as I say, with Hitler at the helm, it could be a lot worse. But then if you look at history, go back to the Black Plague, and I'm sure everybody thought it was the end of the world then, and it's not. It cleared out a bunch of population. Things got much better for everyone. So that's at the most pessimistic, at least there's
pessimistic optimism.
At least there's that optimism that at the end of it all, something will be left. We might not be here, but I believe the world will go on. Even it just I don't know how we could be safe when we're if he has low blood sugar levels. We all might be doomed. So I mean, that's the point we're at now.
He's not looking too good. He looks a bit tired and puffy today. I saw on the news. I mean, I don't wish ill for anyone, but maybe he'll have a stroke. I don't know. Yeah. On happier matters, I heard.
I really don't like talking about politics. And I'm trying to be very nice and polite now, but I guess I've said my piece.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's out there. Well, actually, I mean, it is slightly a political theme, but also not in a way. I heard that you met and talked to John Lennon once. Could you tell us that story?
It was just a brief meeting. It was I was working for, I believe it was called the East Village Theater Company. I wasn't in the show, but I was working on the show. It was the first or second avant-garde art exposition at the Armory in Manhattan in New York City. And it was the day before the opening of the show, and people are walking around setting things up, and I'm walking around looking at the different avant-garde art displays. And walking the other way was John Lennon, and we stopped, had a conversation. He was the most normal, average. I mean, it was like, it was...
When was that? What year would you say?
It must have been 70, around there, 69, 70, 71. Yeah, it was first or second. John and Yoko both had works exhibited there. And it was I don't know, probably, I'm sure it didn't last more than a minute, but, hi, how are you? Enjoying the exhibit? Yeah, I'm over at the East Village Theater. Oh, I'll check it out, blah, blah, blah. That
cool.
was it, yeah. And,
very cool.
But, yeah, he was just normal and as anyone I've ever met.
Yeah. Tell us about what you're doing in Amsterdam, and you were doing some broadcasting.
Well, I work with the John Sinclair Foundation and RadioFreeAmsterdam.com. And right now we're in the process of trying to organize a Bohemian Embassy, basically a place for John to have a base and archive his massive amount of material that he's amassed, and see what, exhibitions, performances,
How's that? What phase are you at?
Right now we're looking for a place, a location, a venue. We have one that we're going to look at. We're kind of looking at anti-cracks, broad plots, or just so far we've just been looking at normal places to rent. We found one that has a living space above it. So
some of our people who are watching this won't know who John Sinclair is.
John Sinclair is, well, just go to probably either RadioFreeAmsterdam.com or johnsinclair.us. John Sinclair is what many people call the grandfather of the counterculture, alternative, free the weed movement. He was arrested for 2 joints back in late 60s, I believe, and in Michigan, a huge concert was organized with the likes of John Lennon, who wrote the song John Sinclair, and that's on his New York City album. And John is a prolific poet and performer, and works with various blues groups, and of course is a musicologist, music historian, and if you really want to be enlightened about blues and jazz, go to RadioFreeAmsterdam.com.
Okay, thanks very much.
You're very welcome.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Hank.
This is not a song. This is not a poem. This is not a film. This is war.
The report into the Iraq War, which claimed many thousands of lives, was released recently. Here are the words of Reg Keyes, father of Tom, who died in Iraq. The Iraq War was a fiasco, waged on the basis of scandalous lies. My son Tom, aged 20, died serving his country in this war. If I didn't already know it before today, I know it now. Tom died in vain. He and his comrades died brutal deaths in a conflict that did not have to take place. Even now, I watch the reports from Iraq. 250 people blown up last weekend on the streets of Baghdad in this war without end. Is this what we sent our soldiers to fight for?
Let's pick things up with a song from the Fokken sisters. All you Amsterdammers will know the tune, but they've changed the words a little.
Sinterklaas kapoentje zullen we zingen. Geef de kat een Sinterklaas kapoentje, geef de kat een zoentje, geef de kat een pootje. En weet je, nou lekker dan. Sinterklaasje, kom maar binnen met je knecht. Ja, ze werden vroeger, dat is wel leuk. Vroeger hadden wij veel klanten die Zwarte Piet gingen spelen. En Sinterklaas u weer naar Spanje rijdt. Kom dan nog even bij ons aan en laat je paardje maar buiten staan. En we zingen en we springen en we zijn zo blij, want er zijn gestoute kinderen bij. Hopsakee.
Thanks, girls. That was a lovely song. That's all from us here on Future Vision Amsterdam. Thank you for turning on, tuning in, and dropping by. Taking us out is a cartoon. Let's go now to Squid Boy, who as usual is having a party, and we're all invited. Happy New Year! Arr, 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 arr,
Hooray! Happy 7th minute, Squid Boy!
Say, Squid Boy, what a surprise. This party, huh? Gee, you tell me, girly man. This isn't even my house.